conceal whatever you're doing, you can very easily do it. And the monitoring of the internet is not going to catch that. So I thought, that's not going to work. But this would open our system up for abuses. Let's say there's a future corrupt government that arrives, and he can take advantage of the system and maybe go after their political critic. Like, if there's a future Nixon, he doesn't have to worry about Watergate scandal because it will become legal. And so that's one problem. And the second problem is the internet service provider will be mandated to update their system, to monitor, to be able to do a real-time monitoring of the people's internet activity. And that would increase their costs. And they also have to report to government, so add administrative cost to that. So the smaller ISP will probably close the door from the additional cost. If not, I'm sure the cost will pass down to the consumer. And the third problem is, for such a massive undertaking, there's a problem, there's a risk that it could become another billion-dollar boondoggle, like, I guess, the long gun registry. And so is it worth getting rid of the check and balance that's been in place, that's vital for our democracy, is having like a court order before a search warrant or a wiretapping? So I find that kind of dangerous because like if you look at G20, I know our officers and RCMP are like outstanding officers, but what happened at GN20, if you've seen FIPA State at CBC, was a lot of people, innocent people, were arrested, and because they got rid of like the balance, check and balance that's been in place. And so from the top, the order might have come from the top, and so like it just shows how without the check and balance, people could easily lose sight of things and could lead to abuses of power. So I would just like to ask whoever the next government is to reconsider such legislation and hopefully not package it with the crime bill, which there's a report that says that the government or the current government intend to pass it with the crime bill within 100 days of getting a majority. And so, thank you.
Good evening. Since coming to office in 2006, Stephen Harper's Conservative government has been implementing a low-tax plan for jobs and growth. Prime Minister Stephen Harper's steady economic leadership has steered the country through the worst global recession since the 1930s. Canada's Economic Action Plan has helped the country emerge from the global recession as one of the world's top-performing advanced economies. But there's more to be done. The global recovery remains fragile. That's why last month, Finance Minister Jim Flaherty tabled the next phase of Canada's Economic Action Plan, a low-tax plan for jobs and growth to complete the recovery, create jobs now, and to lay a strong foundation for long-term economic growth. Our budget received praise from a diverse range of groups ranging from the Canadian Federation of Independent Business to the Federation of Canadian Municipalities and indeed to the Canadian Labour Congress. A re-elected Conservative government will reintroduce this budget and implement the next phase of Canada's Economic Action Plan. Our government's plan focuses on 5 main priorities. We are creating jobs through training, trade, and low taxes. We are supporting families through our family tax cut and support for seniors and caregivers. We will eliminate the deficit necessitated by the recession by 2014-2015 by controlling spending and cutting waste. We will make our streets safe through new laws to protect victims and especially children and the elderly rather than focusing on the interests of criminals. We are standing on guard for Canada by investing in the development of Canada's north, cracking down on human smuggling, and strengthening the Canadian Armed Forces. Our Conservative government also recognizes that Canadian farmers produce the best, healthiest, and safest food in the world. Conservative MPs represent most of Canada's agricultural areas, and so it comes as no surprise that agriculture is a key component of our priorities to create jobs and help families. The agriculture and agri-food sector is a source of approximately 1 in 8 jobs in Canada and more than 8% of our GDP. Our agricultural policies and initiatives reflect this importance. When people across this country ask me what the best part of my responsibilities is, I point out to them I have 3 separate areas of responsibility presently. I tell them I have the honor to be the Public Safety Minister of Canada. I tell them that I have the additional responsibility of being the Regional Minister for Manitoba, representing the interests of the entire province at the federal cabinet table. But I conclude by telling them that by far the most important and the most enjoyable aspect of my responsibilities is being the elected member for Provencher. My position as the member of Provencher provides me with the grounding, with the strength, and with the stability to carry out all of my responsibilities. Because I know that when my decisions and my actions reflect the priorities of the people of Provencher, whether those include cabinet responsibilities in justice and Treasury Board and now in public safety, I can carry out my responsibilities with confidence as a federal cabinet minister, knowing that they are a reflection of the people who put me in Parliament, the people of this riding. Our government's priorities were developed with the input of the people of Provencher, and I know they reflect your priorities. As the member for Provencher for the past 10 years, I have worked hard to represent you in Ottawa. If you choose to re-elect me, I will remain committed to implementing your priorities. In order to represent your priorities, I will support a plan that protects and creates jobs by completing our recovery from the global economic recession. I believe that plan is reflected in Prime Minister Harper's budget, the next phase of Canada's Economic Action Plan. Canada needs a stable, national Conservative government that will implement this budget and complete the economic recovery. When Canadians choose Stephen Harper's plan, they are choosing to complete the economic recovery, create jobs now, and lower taxes on families as we move forward. It is a choice I would urge you to make on May 2nd by re-electing me as your Member of Parliament. Thank you.
Well, good evening, Steinbachers, and all those of you that are special guests here in Steinbach for this evening. I would like to acknowledge Golden West Broadcasting and Eastman Education Center for hosting this tremendous event this evening, and also to our moderator, Jeremy St. Louis, for doing such a fine job already. It's a great pleasure for me to speak before you this evening as a native Steinbacher. I'm the only candidate here this evening, not that it matters to some of you, but for others it may matter, that I'm the only candidate that's actually a native son of Steinbach. And my forefathers were among the 18 families that settled here in 1874. And I take great pride, and it's a great honor for me to be able to represent Steinbach in this way. Although not elected, yet at the same time to be able to stand before you this evening is a great honor and privilege. My wife and I have 3 adult grown children with 3 beautiful grandsons. And I just recently discovered that I'm part of what's called the sandwich generation. It's a newly termed, new term for those people who are reaching up and caring for compassionately their elderly parents that need assistance, but also reaching down to grandchildren who so much desire our affirmation and our encouragement. So I'm part of the sandwich generation, and my wife and I are committed to taking a great big bite of the slice of life called the sandwich generation. Also, I'd like to make reference to the fact that right now, as we meet here, there are many people from Provencher in flood-ravaged areas where there's a real great threat. And I think that our concern should be, and our prayers should be for them as well. They're not here this evening. Obviously, many of them are taking the necessary measures to protect their property at this time. Just over 14 months ago, we completed the Olympic Games, the most successful Olympic Games ever held on Canadian soil. And millions of Canadians stood in nationalistic pride and sang from the bottom of their lungs, some in key and some off key, our national anthem. This evening we sang our national anthem. We stood in salute of our flag and recognizing the freedom that we enjoy in our country. We stood up and sang our national anthem. You know, we sang the words, "God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee." Now, if you were among those who sang with millions of others at the time of the Olympics, every time we won a gold medal and stood at attention and sang with pride, what did you really mean when you sang that verse or that line, "God keep our land glorious and free"? I know what it means for me, and I know what it means for the Christian Heritage Party. And this evening, what I want to do is I want to differentiate. I want to clearly articulate why we are different than all the other political parties in Canada. When we sing, "God keep our land glorious and free," we are referring to the God of the Bible. Whether you like it or not, it's the God of the Bible. It's not Allah, and it's not some unknown God that we're singing about. And we are the only political party that fully embraces the preamble to our Constitution, which states, and I quote, "Whereas Canada was founded upon principles that recognize the supremacy of God and the rule of law." What God are we talking about? It's capital G God, the God of the Bible that we're referring to. Truly, Canada has a Christian heritage. And it was actually one of the founders of Confederation, Sir Leonard Tilley, that back in 1867, as he was meditating and reflecting upon the day and reflecting upon what consideration should be given for the term that Canada would be known by, he read in the Bible, in Psalm 72, verse 8, that he shall have dominion from sea to sea and from the river to the ends of the earth. What was he thinking? He knew that God should have dominion. He presented the term dominion to the other fathers of Confederation. And guess what, friends gathered here this evening? We are known still today as the Dominion of Canada. So I ask you, who shall have dominion? How do we, you and I, stand on guard for Canada? Well, for people of faith, we stand on guard by our prayers and by our obedience to the Bible, to God's Word. If we will honor Him, then He will bless us and He will keep our country as the true north, strong and free. Canada, glorious and free. We do not honor God when we allow for over 100,000 abortions in Canada every single year and then publicly honor Henry Morgentaler as a mass murderer with the Order of Canada. Shame on us. Just think that since abortions have become legal in Canada, an entire generation of 3 million Canadians has been wiped out. And that represents the entire population of Manitoba and Saskatchewan, killed in a span of 25 years. That's hard to imagine. Think of the tremendous potential, an entire future generation of Canadians needlessly and inhumanely destroyed. No political party has the moral conscience to address this moral issue. Only the CHP Canada believes in the sanctity of life and that life is sacred from the time of conception to the time of natural death. Sanctity of marriage, sanctity of the family, these are all issues that we're concerned about and that we address in our party. Strong and healthy families are what will represent a strong and healthy nation. So I commit to you this evening that along with our other party platforms, we are dedicated to upholding the traditional values of our country that preserved our heritage and made us strong and kept us as the true north, strong and free. God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, particularly to the Steinbach Chamber of Commerce and the work of Kyla Murray in arranging this forum. You may well ask, why am I coming out of retirement?